this is the sketchbook that I've been doing these abstracts in, and on this page, I think it's because I've been reading about the Fauvists, that's F-A-U-V, Fauvism, F-A-U-V-I-S-M, but it's a type of artist from the early 1900s. Matisse is the most famous one, and I've gotten this book, and I've been just looking at their work, and they used a lot of these little dots, so I did this background this way, and now, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm gonna take some shapes on top of it and kind of see where it goes. So I thought I would chat with you while I'm painting. I just grabbed a few different colors and I'll mix them and see what we come up with. But oh my gosh, they're so interesting. So that's in my new class that's coming out. I did a painting inspired by one of the Fauvists, Andre Duran, and yeah, just they didn't care. They were the first to start painting things in different colors that were not the norm, and they were ridiculed. And of course now everybody loves Matisse, but they hated when there was a show and he had that famous painting, the woman, and there's green in her face, and just they were horrified, apparently. So I'm inspired by, I was painting that way in the sense that they believed that color could express emotion, and that's the way I paint, and it was really fun to find that kind of came from there. For me, color just says so much. So it's been really fun to read about them. Like I said, I don't know where I'm going with this. I didn't know if I was going to do some botanical elements or just do color, but this sketchbook, I have a theme going and I'm kind of attached to it, which is to have, these abstracts with some botanicals. So that's what I think I'm going to do. And we just got back from one trip to Key West where I got inspired by a lot of colors. I took lots of pictures. I'm definitely going to do a Let's Go to Key West class the way I did the Let's Go to Mexico class in my sketchbook class. By the way, my classes are on Skillshare, which is a subscription service, and then also on my website, a la carte. Some people like to buy them one way or the other. But yeah, Key West was beautiful. It's hot, obviously, because we went this time of year. Let's see, what do I want to do over here? Maybe something that comes down, but my students are in a Facebook group, student Facebook group that is fabulous. Such a supportive group of people. It makes me very happy to see people encouraging each other. I just think, being creative can be intimidating. So having that support gets people to be brave. And that's what it comes down to. I also, let's see, I was trying to think of some of the questions. Well, there was one post by someone who she posted, is anyone else too intimidated to even start? And a bunch of people chimed in with, yes, me too, and comments, encouraging comments, but also just kind of perspective to say what's the worst that can happen, different opinions. And it's just, I was way too intimidated. I mean, the beginning I was. And so I ask myself, what was so scary? It is for some people. It was for me. Sometimes it still is. So I don't think it's any less scary necessarily. I think I've just gotten more used to managing those feelings. But people had some great comments about, think of it as an experiment. That's why I like thinking of it like what I'm doing right now as a learning session. And that's why I love sketchbook work, is because it just feels much more approachable. First of all, it's small. Although if you took these two spreads and you put them on top of each other, they'd be the same size as a regular page, wouldn't they? But it just feels, I don't know, there's something about the sketchbook that feels like it's a friend. And makes it approachable. So yeah, just thinking of it as an experiment, a learning session, I think can be really helpful. And I've also been reading, oh my gosh, I'm getting such a kick out of it, Winston Churchill's little book that I had gotten from my husband years ago. It's called Painting as a Pastime. It's old. It's printed in, my copy's printed in 64, but it was originally printed in 34 maybe, 1934. And his whole premise in that is how much he's enjoying painting and how much he says it saved him many times with the stress of, everything he was doing. But he says right in there, we have to release ourselves from the idea of a masterpiece and just painting it for the enjoyment. And he did that for years, so he got better. That's kind of my secret agenda with you all, is if I make it fun and approachable, you'll keep doing it. And if you keep doing it, you'll get better. That's basically been my, I don't know if it's a formula, but it's been my approach. I'm not going to do it if it's not enjoyable. I'm not going to stick with it. I'm not going to do it long enough to get better if it's too intimidating or too scary. So let's make it doable so that we keep doing it, and then we can't help but improve. Makes sense. The alternative is let's be really harsh and critical of ourselves. Let's compare ourselves to everyone else who's better or whose work we like more. And then let's put ourselves in a paralysis and never paint again. Doesn't that sound fun? But it's sadly what so many people, especially people who went to art school that I know, they're remembering how they painted when they were, full-time art students, and they say, oh, no, I couldn't do that now. I won't be where I was, or it won't be to my standards, and so they don't do anything. So sad. And they miss it, but they don't do it. So that's why I do everything I can in myself and in you all to say, take that pressure off. Where is looking for my dark navy. Let's try this deep violet and see. I haven't used much of that. Ooh, that's really bright. We'll tone that down with some yellow. I just want something dark. Let's see, what am I going to do? Maybe I'll do some kind of pot. Have you seen my pots lately? Sometimes I get just my little current shape obsession. And I was saying in the Facebook group the other day when I went live is it's a mystery to me that we will certainly not expect to sit down at a piano and play a beautiful piece if we've never played before, but for some reason, and we recognize that would take years of practice, right? We know that, right? It'd be absurd to think that you could do anything less, and yet we somehow think we ought to be able to paint for a week or a month or a few times and be, quite good. So it's a strange thing. And there are a lot of people with kind of the healthy attitude of this is just something I'm doing for relaxation and fun, and really staying in touch with that original reason. What shall we do here? Oh no, let's see here. That's sort of a greenish. It's an interesting color. I think I want to take it more in the green direction. When you see the tropics, there's so many. You could really, I think, make just about any shape or line or leaf, and it probably exists. I also liked when I was reading about the Fauvists that they never set out to copy nature. They painted outside, so they were looking at nature, but they wanted to then interpret not what the color was with their eye, but what they felt. So then they went with these kind of, crazier colors for unusual things, like green on the face or red tree trunks or whatever. And going for the feeling and the light less than the, trying to copy the leaf or the tree or whatever it was. That's kind of a yucky color, isn't it? Ooh. I'll probably be painting over that. Ooh. It might grow on me, but I doubt it. Sometimes it takes several coats of something before you're happy. Let's see here. Yeah, that's definitely getting painted over. Can't stand it. At least part of it. Might look kind of cool to leave some of it. Sometimes painting and talking works and sometimes it doesn't. Let's see. I'm gonna go in like a coral direction, see what happens. Just make some larger sort of square shapes with this. Yeah, but read about the Fauvists. They are really, they were very unpopular because of what they were doing. It was mostly, let's see, Matisse, he was kind of the most famous one, and then Andre Derain, and for you French people, I'm mispronouncing that, Durang, I think, more like that. And let's see, there was one called Clinic, no, let's see, Van, what was it? Something like, oh, I can't remember. They're all French though. And all at the same time period. and they'd all kind of go hang out and paint outside in crazy colors. Sounds fun, right? Well, this one will certainly be interesting to see where it goes. Because right now I have no idea. This color is really pretty, this Holbein gouache mustard. Sometimes you need, like it depends on the look you want, but sometimes I'll want a really opaque look, and so even though this gouache is really, really good pigment and pretty opaque, if I don't want things showing through, I'll go and do 2 coats. The Holbein acrylic gouache is definitely drier than the Turner, so you have to add more water, and don't be surprised if you're working along and it's starting to almost seize up. But it has really good pigment. When you've heard me talk about the ugly stage that every painting goes through, and sometimes it's not truly ugly, it's more awkward, but it is something that you definitely want to stick with, because it will get better. And if you abandon it, you are at a kind of a crossroads where if you stick with it, you'll learn a lot and it'll get better, and you'll be so glad you didn't abandon it. But it's hard sometimes. That this painting is definitely in that stage, and I know now that that you just stay with it, and if you run out of ideas on what to do, you just put it away, come back with fresh eyes another day. Some of this is going to have to dry so I can do coats, and then what I'll do next is probably add some more elements and then go in and bring some things forward and push some things back, so that, like right here, these little green leaves are competing with the background, and so I'll go in with something, dark behind, or just something to bring them forward, or maybe I'll take some ivory and push some of that background back, bringing forward, pushing back, creating problems and solving them. And making art really comes down to the being okay with discomfort and with things being unresolved, which I don't know. I've learned. I think I've learned to be okay with those things. They did not come naturally, that's for sure. I want everything wrapped up in a nice, neat little package. And eventually you can get there with a piece of art, but initially not so much. And I think that's when a lot of people quit, because it's not pleasant. It doesn't feel good. You know, it's not resolved. It's not the painting you want. It's not even, you know, it's uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. So I think a lot of people say, oh, well, okay, I'm no good. I'm not doing this anymore, because it's just too uncomfortable. But if you can hang in there and know that that's part of the process, that's okay, you can get through the other side, I think that's when you really get better. Well, I'm just going to continue fiddling around with this, and we'll see where it goes. And maybe I'll get it closer by the time I publish this video. But I hope you create and have a learning session and take the pressure off yourself to you know, do something spectacular every time, or even ever, really. Because if you do that, someday you may surprise yourself. Okay, happy creating.